Hello, welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. Today I'm joined again by Jacob of the Rise of Liberty podcast, and we're continuing our dig into the West Memphis 3 in part 11 of Who the Fuck Are the West Memphis 3, continuing our dig into the occult stuff. All the occult stuff, this is, kind of enveloped or rolled out into a whole group of episodes because it's pretty laden on heavy throughout. But with that, if you like this show, like what we're doing here, be sure to that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when we're going live and we're dropping new videos. And with that, we'll see you in the show. Hello, Jacob. Welcome back to the show. Pleasure to have you here as always, continuing our dig into the occult side of the West Memphis 3. I think we probably have like a couple more of these episodes left to make it a little bit easier to understand kind of like the overall, the sub-themes within the overall theme of all these episodes. I think in these, two, we're going to try to break it up, things prior to the murders, that lead us to believe implications of occult involvement, and then I believe in the next episode we'll probably be focusing more on the things after the fact, kind of the changes in Damien Echols and the things he professes and yada yada. I'm sure things of the like that we'll talk about in the next episode. But this episode just kind of more digging into the things that kind of led up to it, or even I mean, I don't know if this would necessarily count, but like in last episode we talked about Damien being one of the first people leading them, acting as if he was some sort of occult expert on the spot. Like, let me tell you, all the signs point to this is obviously some occult involvement. Right. Let me tell you, these are young boys. Clearly, they were looking for a pure sacrifice, dropping this Levian knowledge. But yeah, anyways, continuing our dig into all of this. But yeah, as happens with these deep dive series we do, it tends to be once we get one of the guests to start digging into this topic, more things, like, oh geez, new connections are made, and this seems to be no exception.
Yeah, totally. It's very interesting because let's see, I'm about a year into like focusing on this case, like putting some serious investigative work into it. I have a bunch of stories that I cycle through, but this is one story that's been pretty much stuck with me for the past year or so. And I mean, there's just so much. There's always the stuff that everyone talks about, which is all good stuff to know. But once you start digging into the actual documents, I mean, the one thing that frustrates me is the idea that the West Memphis police didn't actually investigate this, because that's part of the propaganda side of this, right? Is that they wanted a quick fix, and so they just blamed the three most likely goth suspects in the Bible Belt, And it's like, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Now, I'm not saying like the police did everything right or that everything they did was perfect, because it was far from it. They made a lot of mistakes, kind of just due to the time, but also just, I think they were overwhelmed, and there's all sorts of reasons why. But I mean, they talked to everyone. It's crazy the amount of information that's out there, considering it's, oh God, 30 something years ago, you know, 1993. So it's, yeah, let's see, 30, yeah, 33 years ago. So, I mean,
We're
kind of
lucky
weird.
there.
Yeah, kind of weird, man, you know, but considering that it was 33 years ago, just it's weird, man. And there's just so much there. And like there's comments from the general public, and like I've barely touched on any of the newspaper coverage or the local coverage or anything. Like it just is so deep. So but yeah, like you said, we will be covering kind of the events with a focus on Damien Echols, of like what was going on before the murders. And we've kind of done that already, such as touching on Exhibit 500. But that's a huge part of this. I mean, that's a case file of 500 pages of mental health and other medical records. So, I mean, it's just one of these things, man. And then there's it's a pattern of behavior, which is why it's important to focus on beforehand. And then when you tie that in with what we know about the case, what we know about the crime scene, and then on top of that, you compare it or you combine it with the behavior of people afterwards. Like it just really does paint a picture that's hard to ignore unless you're lying or just completely retarded, you know? So, um, let's see here. So, like I said, these are some of the events that led up to the murders, and it's going to have a focus of Damien Echols, but I mean, he is kind of the ringleader. However, there is a bunch of information we can get into regarding each person individually. So Damien Echols had a long documented history of very severe psychological issues, violent behavior, animal cruelty, and occult practices. In the years and months leading up to the murders on May 5th, 1993. I had mentioned, and we've been discussing Exhibit 500, which, like I said, is a 500-page compilation of Damien Echols' mental health records, which reveals that he suffered clinically from homicidal and suicidal ideation, manic depression, schizophrenia, sociopathy, and in February 1993, Echols actually applied for Social Security disability at the ripe old age of 18. So, and he was awarded it, you know? So it's just kind of interesting. You know, I'm not sure how well the process was, you know, in the state of Arkansas back in the 90s. But I can say, at least in my home state, they're pretty strict on who they give Social Security disability to. Like there's a whole bunch of the word just shot right out of my head. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to meet in order to qualify, right? And especially if you're super young, they're gonna look at your case even harder because they want to know, like, why the hell are we gonna try and give this 18-year-old Social Security? Like, why aren't they working? From what I understand, I don't know how we could confirm this, but from what I understand, the prevailing belief is that he didn't even have to apply a second time. So, for anyone who doesn't know, the way that Social Security kind of works is that you typically get denied once or twice, like everybody does. Um, it's just kind of part of the motions, you know, going through the motions in order to get approved for this. Apparently he didn't. Apparently he got approved the first time through. So, yeah. That's
It's all too common of a theme in some of these, I guess, deeper parapolitical
right.
events where we see certain characters that receive government assistance in what seems to be dubious ways, essentially.
Right.
Although, who knows? At the same time, I say that it's like, the government is. Oh, sometimes it really is as simple as knowing somebody, and you can get your back scratched as long as you're scratching theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That seems to be like that'd be quite a bit to be pulling off that sort of scheme.
Right.
But you never know.
Right. And I mean, could be a, could be a total scam. I mean, very clearly the kid is disturbed. Now the question is, do we really want people like that working out in public? Like, do we want, or I think there are jobs that we could place these sorts of people in. Somebody with homicidal ideation, I don't know if I want working with the general public, but I've never really gone through that and worked that out before. If that's something I'd do I want to take my kids into a store and knowing that like the employees have homicidal ideation? I don't know. I've just never really thought about it. But either way, he was approved. And I just find that kind of interesting because he was 18. Let's see here. So, in February 1993, Echols applied for Social Security disability, self-identifying his conditions as, quote, homicidal, suicidal, manic depression, schizophrenia, and sociopathic, end quote, and was declared 100% disabled due to mental impairment. So that's what the state of Arkansas said. He frequently expressed hatred for the human race, dividing people into wolves and sheep. Kind of a famous quote out of his medical records, and noting that wolves eat sheep. Direct quote. Echols was a high school dropout, having left school in the 9th grade and spent much of his time drifting between homes. So just give you kind of an idea of the kind of life that he's living. We've kind of touched on this a little bit, but here's some important points I think that, if they have been mentioned, should be mentioned again. In May of 1992, Damien Echols had been suspended a total of 7 times in a single semester for initiating fights at schools and starting fires. During one school fight, he attempted to gouge out a classmate's eye. That was Shane Divelbus, I think. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Let's see. Damien admitted that he sharpened his fingernails specifically for this purpose of gouging out Shane's eyeballs. So, kind of intense, dude. Fuck, chill out. On May 29th, 1992, Echols was arrested for burglary and sexual misconduct after attempting to run away with his 15-year-old girlfriend, Deanna Holcomb. This was before Domini. The two had made a suicide pact, and during the arrest, Echols decided to threaten. Echols threatened to kill the arresting officer and Deanna's father right in front of her. So, okay, intense, dude. Definitely not somebody I would want dating my daughter. Let's see. Witnesses reported that Echols once chased a younger child with an axe, and on another occasion, placed a young boy in a noose until the child turned blue and nearly passed out. Weird. Almost like there's a pattern of behavior here, Echols' parents were terrified of him resulting in his temporary relocation to Oregon. His mom, I think I mentioned this before, but his mom actually, so she was married to Damien's biological father. They got divorced. Damien's mom married his stepdad, who apparently was super abusive, including sexual abuse and, mental, physical, emotional. There's even a quote from Damien where he acknowledges that his stepdad was abusing his little sister, and he just didn't give a shit. Like, cool, thanks, bro. But then eventually Damien's mom leaves the stepdad, and returns to Damien's biological father and remarries him. At this point is when they relocated to Oregon. Damien was pissed, didn't want to live in Oregon, wanted to live in Arkansas, in West Memphis, and ended up actually moving back in with his stepdad, which I found super weird. We had kind of touched on that a little bit, especially because his stepdad is a known creep, a very well documented known creep. But Damien said that the reason why is because that's the only way he could live in West Memphis. I'm not sure like why you would want to be there so bad. I do find that kind of important to note, though, considering what ended up happening later on. Like, he fought to be there. He wanted to be in West Memphis so bad, to the
All the
point.
allegations of the cult activity and the group he supposedly is part of.
Right.
Allegations have even led it. So yeah.
Right. And that's why I think it's important to note that, like, he would move in with somebody he allegedly hates just to live there. My guess is, since he was allegedly this leader of a group, the Covenant of Divine Light, that he needed that power. Like, he is that sort of narcissist to the point where, I mean, he needs the validation that comes along with being in charge of people. So I definitely think that that's part of it for sure. Let's see. So yeah, Echols' parents were terrified of him, resulting in his temporary relocation to Oregon. In September of 1992, his parents called the police because Echols threatened to cut his mother's throat, and he told evaluators he planned to slash his parents' throats and eat them alive. Direct quote. Lovely, lovely little boy. Of course, there's a huge section of Exhibit 500 that's almost dedicated to the animal cruelty stuff. It's definitely a special place in hell for anyone who commits animal cruelty. Echols engaged in extensive and gruesome animal torture. On October 27th, 1992, witnesses saw Echols kill a sick black Great Dane by striking it in the head with a brick and pulling out its intestines and stomping on its head to make its eyes pop out. He planned to return with battery acid to burn the skin and hair off the dog's skull so he could keep it. Super weird, you know? Let's see. If we switch that scene, let's see. Here we go. Let's see. And yeah, one of the things that was found in his room were, this collection of skulls that I've mentioned a few times. He collected animal skulls as trophies, specifically keeping 2 cat skulls, a dog skull, and a rat skull in his bedroom. Now, I mean, I have some oddities, I don't find it weird. I know some people do. I just have a hard time believing that, an 18-year-old living this kind of a life is going to display these things properly. So I imagine they probably stunk.
Yeah. Me and you are both guys in our like 30s. So when you're talking about
Right.
oddities, like I think what you're talking about are the sort of things that people are like into odd art or
Right.
tattoos and stuff, or like as people can see behind me, like I have all these weird sort of artsy. I mean,
Right.
it's like more comic booky, but like I have like a like right here, you might be able to see it. Sort of, there's like a cow skull, although it's a fake one. But either
Right.
way, like I would totally love to have some weird small animal skeleton or something like that. But
Right.
for one, I mean, if me and you were had to be more like a collector, nice thing, probably spend a little bit more on it type thing. Whereas, he's some white trash, living in a trailer
Yeah.
park,
Right.
probably not really getting collector's items, oddities. These are probably
Right.
more self procured.
Right.
Is the point? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, usually highly unethical. And in fact, that's kind of a big thing in the oddities community is like, where did this come from? Like you can buy human skulls, but it's a kind of a big issue. Like, where do they come from? Right. People have been busted before grave robbing in order to sell human remains. Most of the ones that you come across, though, were like medical specimens from the like early 1900s, which is why they cost so much. Um, but I mean, I have like an octopus in a jar, um, but I bought it from somebody who does that, and granted, it's only just a
From somebody who
little guy.
tortures octopus.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He gets the ink first, and then that's what he uses for the label.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I in my mind, I can only imagine they stunk like death, And hey, he was probably into that just based upon, what we know. Um so yeah, I found that kind of interesting. He was reported to skewer live frogs and sharpen sticks uh to use on the frogs in order to watch how long they took to die. Um, and he once poured gasoline on a cat, inserted a bottle rocket into its rectum, and ignited it. Really disturbing behavior. Um, let's see. So Echols openly engaged in practices he associated, or that are associated, excuse me, with witchcraft, demonology, and Satanism. His clinical files frequently mentioned his consumption of human blood, which we've discussed, a practice he claimed to have started around age 10, according to his files. He told psychiatric evaluators that drinking blood from a sexual or willing partner gave him power and made him, quote, feel like a god, end quote. I've mentioned that before, but that's still just the craziest comment. Like, even if you're joking, like why say something like that, Um, in June 1992, nursing staff at Charter Hospital documented him trying to suck blood off of a peer who had scratched themselves. We discussed that. September 92, while at Juvenile Detention Center, Echols grabbed a peer's self inflicted bleeding wrist wound and sucked the blood out, smeared it on his own face and body, and proclaimed himself a devil worshipping vampire. He's just like screaming this in the common area. Fucking weirdo. He reported having conversations with demons through rituals. He believed the spirit of a murdered woman lived inside him, which I think needs to be mentioned again, which he claimed granted him extra strength and power. I did find this kind of interesting, just kind of a quick sidebar. One of my extended family members and research partners let me know about this thing that Damien has. It's known as a Jupiter talisman, and he would use it in order to summon demons, basically. And it's the same Jupiter talisman that Aleister Crowley wore and used. And it's also the exact same Jupiter talisman that Joseph Smith used and wore. So kind of an interesting little side note. There's more on that we can get into at another time, probably next episode. Yep.
Here it is, by the way. For people, I guess this is
Yep.
talisman. So I guess Aleister Crowley had it. Joseph Smith had it.
And Damien Echols. So
probably could spend a whole episode decoding what the fuck all that is. But so
yeah, there's some weird shit. In fact, let's see. I went down a whole rabbit hole that day. It's incredibly interesting. In fact, real quick, there's a post from Damien Echols that he made on Facebook regarding this. Let's see, I can actually share the screen and bring it up real quick. Let's see. Here it is. And so this is directly from Damien on January 27th, 2020. He said, Talisman Part 1. I'll probably remember the first talisman I ever made for the rest of my life because it's not a memory I find pleasant. Mostly my prison days seem like something that happened lifetimes ago, and they rarely cross my mind. I somehow doubt that. That was my commentary, just for any listeners. I honestly just don't care for the most part. That's all the past, and I don't live looking backward. More often than not, I'm far more excited about what's ahead of me. I often feel this overwhelming sense that something good is coming for me, something amazing. And because of that, I get random bursts of excitement. But the memory of talismans are tied up in prison for me because that's where I started making them out of necessity. The first talisman was for protection. And the reason was because of what prisoners and guards alike refer to as a, quote, shakedown. It's when anywhere from 2 to 10 guards come over to your cell and destroy everything in it. They're looking for anything at all that they can find that will allow them to send you to the hole. I'm sure he loves being in holes. While this is going on, you're standing handcuffed in a cell with guards, usually just wearing a pair of boxer shorts. Yeah, I'm sure. It takes about an hour for them to destroy your things, take precious family photos, or just walk on them and turn your whole world into a broken jumble on the floor. Sometimes there's a side dish of physical brutality. If you're one of the few they pick out to rough up that day, this happens on average once a month, and they use it like a kind of physical torture technique to remind you of it. It's a source of constant stress and anxiety. You also never know when someone is going to get trigger happy with the tear gas and leave half the barracks choking for half the day. It was during one of these shakedowns that I made my first talisman. If you're interested in reading the rest of the story as well, blah, 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 Patreon, whatever. So just kind of an interesting thing directly from his mouth. Let's see.
Grifting off talisman stories, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Let's see. So Damien Echols creates talismans and sigils as a component of his ceremonial magic practice, magic with a K. Like all retards from the 90s write it. Practice drawing heavily on Western esoteric traditions, including the teachings.
Isn't the CK, not to get off topic, but maybe you'd know this. You'd seem like someone knows. Isn't the CK thing, the magic thing, isn't that like a, maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but I swear that's like a vestige of like a Crowley, because I think didn't he use that? Yeah. And like he would use it, and I think it's like a lot of people think of it as I'm talking a little bit on my ass here, but a lot of people immediately think it's some sort of like British thing, but like apparently no, it was just a typo. It's just like he's just literally wrong, and it's almost like he's trying to like make it more fancy. So that's like it's a Crowleyism that people
Right.
attribute
Right.
the magick. So it gives us this more like magic lore, more
Right.
whimsical lore to it. When it's just Crowley misspelling it, it's not even like
Right.
an aluminium thing or something like Britain. It's a straight up misspelling. So
Kind of. I
yeah.
mean, so you're pretty much spot on. The only thing I'll add to it is it's just kind of like a side of pretentiousness,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a it's a way for them, and this is usually why they, especially why like the witches and stuff will do it, is to set themselves apart from, like stage magicians, or like in the 90s it was really big in the occult communities to do this because of like Magic the Gathering and stuff. And so it's literally just a way to like set us apart and show us that we're the real magicians, like that's literally all it is. So, and yeah, Crowley's the one that started it, so it's a nod to him. And yeah, as far as I understand, Crowley did just kind of misspell it one time, and I think he just kind of stuck with it because he thought it looked badass. So it's just retard stuff, like there's nothing cool about it. It's just, it is what it is. And so yeah, Damien creates talismans all the time, which is it's a form of sigil magic, drawing heavily on Western esoteric traditions, including the teachings of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. These visual symbols and painted artworks serve as spiritual portals intended to manifest specific energies such as protection, healing, or transformation. In traditional occultism and ceremonial magic, the Jupiter talismans are primarily used to invoke luck, wealth, abundance, expansion, and success. It's a little bit darker than that. But I mean, that's kind of like surface level stuff. Echols' approach to such talismanic art involves drawing these planetary, angelic, and archangelic symbols by hand, pairing them with sacred alphabets and consecrating them to channel specific forces. Key aspects of the talisman work include the spiritual origins, which Echols has honed his focus on these symbols during his 18 years on death row. So, it is used to like manifest those sorts of things, luck, wealth, abundance, that sort of stuff. But, it can be tied directly to specific demons or specific practices, this sort of stuff, protection. And yeah, so kind of an interesting little bit. He's actually painted Jupiter talismans quite a bit. If you look at any of his artwork, which sells for an ungodly amount of money, literally just because it has his name on it. And not that it's bad artwork, but it's blatantly occult artwork. But it's not super elaborate or anything. It's literally just typically paintings of big sigils, Let's see. So to get back on track, let's see, September 92, we mentioned. Damien reported having conversations with demons through rituals and believed the spirit of the murdered woman. Let's see. He and his ex-girlfriend, Deanna Holcomb, had allegedly discussed having a baby together specifically to sacrifice it. Stalking incidents. March of 1993. About 2 months before the murders, Echols was involved in several stalking incidents. In March 1993, he appeared outside 14-year-old Jennifer Ball's kitchen window while she was on the phone, telling her that she was going to die. He also went to 13-year-old Amanda Lancaster's house to stalk and intimidate her. Additionally, an 11-year-old girl named Jessica Bryant reported that around March 1993, a boy dressed in all black, Echols, stalked her and her friends, watching them from behind the bushes. So, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like when you start digging in and you start finding these things, like nobody ever really talks about these stalking incidences that were proven to be him, you know? It's super weird behavior, man. I've always found stalking to be very, very interesting, like psychologically.
Well, and you add that with all
Super
the
creepy.
other you add that with all the other behavior with the animals, and it's obviously escalatory behavior, just at a very
Right.
simple level. That's the easiest way to understand it. I mean,
Right.
essentially keeping trophies, harming animals, mutilation, and it's all just kind of building up from there. And now here we are with
Right.
humans,
Exactly.
and the stalking too. So obviously you mentioned
Yeah.
stalking.
Yeah. Which is super creepy behavior. I mean, even if he never did another thing in his life and that was only just the thing that he did, would still be creepy, still be enough. But pair that with everything else we know. Um, let's see. So the day before the murders, on May 4th, 1993, the day immediately preceding the killings, Damien's biological father, Joe Echols, moved out of the family's trailer. Echols already harbored intense disgust for his father and had previously threatened to kill him multiple times, actually. He was reportedly visibly upset by this abandonment and was seen crying, providing a potential emotional trigger, giving his documented history of reacting to anger by hurting others, which is a very well documented trait of his. Um, Now that's like the broad range of things. There's one specific day that I want to focus on regarding his behavior. So this would have been not necessarily before the murders. This is like right after the murders. So the day to focus on is May 9th, 1993, which is 4 days after the boys' bodies were found. Damien Echols was subjected to police questioning regarding the deaths of Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore. Sources document the interactions occurring at noon at the police station with Detective Brian Ridge and about 5 p.m. in the front yard of Jason Baldwin's trailer with detectives Shane Griffin and Bill Durham. Let's see. So the pattern of behavior here is incredibly disturbing. So Echols' behavior during these interviews was highly abnormal. Instead of displaying typical adolescence anxiety or horror regarding a local tragedy, he adopted a cold, analytical posture, aggressively volunteering non public crime scene details under the guise of profiling the killer. Like, okay, just how arrogant, first of all, and then also like you're throwing yourself under the bus.
The funny thing though is that this happened in the mid '90s, and like I don't know, when was CSI? When was the first CSI? It had to have been
Ooh, that's a
like,
good question.
because it just feels like this is like a movie thing. Like it's
Right.
I know I'm the resident local kid who's into the occult, and here I am. There's been a murder,
Yeah.
and I'm like gonna like a Nancy Drew or whatever. Here I
Right.
am to
Right.
help you out. You're like, let me tell you a profile on base of like it feels like something
Yeah.
from that, and it's like as if like he
Right.
thought he could somehow delude himself so I could see how someone in a normal mundane life could like go delusions of grandeur could could somehow buy that wouldn't come off as incredibly fucking fishy. Like I don't know.
Right.
As if like TV's real life, I guess would be kind of like what I was getting at.
I mean, with his mental state, I don't think it would be too far of a jump to say that that's probably how he views a lot of this stuff, a lot of interactions in life, as if it is TV, you know?
Okay, by the way, I looked it up. CSI was 2000, but either way, whatever.
I mean,
whatever.
cop
Common trope in movies.
Right.
Like I even mentioned Nancy Drew, but like the Hardy
Right.
Boys, it's the same idea. Like the Hardy Boys showing up, that same vibe. Somebody's like, "Oh, here I am. A crime's happened, and I just so happen to know some things." You know. So
right. Well, and I mean, crime shows have always been popular, and I mean that's a trope for a reason, right? Like it's not a new thing. So yeah, it's just weird that he like he's so adamant about trying to help the police, right? And then the details he gives are really disturbing, some of which he couldn't have known unless he was there. And I mean, like the urine in the boys' mouths, which is crazy. Like you can't know that unless you pissed in their mouth. Like the medical examiner didn't even know it at that point. So just very interesting. The strange and incriminating elements of the May 9th interviews break down as follows. So the FBI questionnaire and pre-autopsy knowledge. Detective Griffin administered an FBI questionnaire designed to screen suspects in violent crimes. When asked how the boys died, Echols wrote, quote, "cut up." Kind of weird. They didn't know that at that point. At least I'm like 98% sure that wasn't made public by this point. Also, that's very specific, very, very specific. So this is critically, this is a critical anomaly, as the autopsy results were not yet complete or public, meaning Echols possessed direct knowledge of the victims' specific mutilations before law enforcement officially released them. Sources state that when asked why someone would commit the murders, Echols answered, quote, "thrill kill." Very weird. When asked how the killer felt, he responded, quote, "liked it, happy." Sources state he also inexplicably volunteered that his sister was sexually abused by his stepfather and that, quote, "it didn't bother him." Cool. What a good brother. The Duper's Delight profiling. Sources state that Echols actively taunted investigators by describing the killer's mindset and logistics in disturbing detail. He told police the killer knew the kids went into the woods and actively asked them to come out. He noted the boys were not big or smart and would have been, quote, "easy to control." Sources state that he stated the killer would not have been worried about the victim screaming because the noise from the nearby expressway would drown it out, adding that the killer, quote, "probably wanted to hear the screaming." Okay. Now here's a bit of information on the urination detail. In one of the most damning moments of the May 9th questioning, Echols volunteered that the murderers had urinated in the mouths of the three boys. This is an impossible guess. I mean, the mathematical odds of that being a guess, like, get out of here. It is impossible. There's no way for him to have known that.
Well, he saw the telltale signs of occult killings.
Right.
From there, he was easily able to deduce they obviously pissed in the kid's mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
The
It's like
medical
the
examiners.
Sherlock Holmes of pissing in kids' mouths.
The medical examiners did not even understand that the boys had been urinated on yet, meaning this detail was entirely unknown to both the police and the public at the time Echols casually offered it. And that's I think one of the most disturbing aspects is he just talked about all of this so nonchalant, like it just didn't matter to him, like almost to the point of like, God, you guys don't know this, you're so dumb, which is totally the way a Satanist would act. Like that's such a satanic attitude based upon the four tenets of Satanism that we've discussed.
Well, Jacob, I know we had talked about this episode being kind of like the things almost like I'd say probably a good way to understand is like a recap and kind of maybe rehashing some of the stuff and kind of as we kind of laid out the intensifying behavior and how kind of went from messing with local animals to mutilating them to trophies to stalking. We kind of see how things progress. We see the telltale symbols of the occult connections well before the killings. And I think it sounds like we're kind of now in this in-between spot, like, as they're kind of telling on themselves, we've already gone to the murders. So I think sounds like we're at that point now where we're getting ready to go into next episode territory. We'll go into after. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to cover in this territory. So far as things that precede, or roughly at the time or precede the murders, kind of rehashing everything that kind of make it. Because I know, as we said, these did kind of unfold in a whole like a mishmash of episodes. This was kind of a way to kind of like reassemble our thoughts in a more coherent way and kind of and give a little bit of a chronological feel to it, just into some degree. And we're going to continue that next episode on the other side of the murders. Right. But anything else you want to add to it before we leave it as is?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things, just so we don't have to do them next episode. Let's see. So when explicitly asked who committed the crime, Echols responded with one word: Satanist. Kind of weird. He openly admitted to practicing magic and belonging to a group, the Covenant of Divine Light, for 5 years, confirming his favorite author was Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey. He provided specific occult logic that perfectly mapped onto the crime scene, telling detectives that his religion, Wicca, or witchcraft, the penis is a symbol of power, the number 3 is numerologically sacred, and sacrificing younger, more innocent victims grants the killer more power. He casually mentioned the book of Revelation was his favorite book in the Bible because the devil handed out punishment. And then, not to mention, he also had evil tattooed across his knuckles, a pentagram tattooed on his chest, both terrible tattoos. And he wore a pentagram pendant everywhere. He wore it everywhere all the time, never saw him without it. And just to wrap up on this, because this is actually a really important detail, none of the three, Jason, Jessie, or Damien, have ever had a legitimate alibi. Ever. Not once. All of them have been disproven. So this is the very first time on this May 9th date that Damien gives his first fabricated alibi. And there's multiple versions and stuff, but this first one's important. So during the 5 p.m. interview in front of Jason's trailer, Echols provided his first official alibi. He claimed that Dominique Tier and Jason Baldwin were at Jason's uncle's house and that his father picked them up from a laundromat around 6 p.m., dropping the others off before taking Damien home for the rest of the night. Sources state that Echols would completely abandon this alibi the very next day, changing the timeline, the locations, and claiming his mother, not his father, was the one that picked him up. And then the abrupt end to the yard interview. The 5 p.m. interview in Jason Baldwin's yard was ended suspiciously. After Echols completed his questionnaire, Detective Griffin began questioning Jason Baldwin. Before they could proceed, Jason's mother, Gail, came outside, visibly agitated. Sources state she accused the officers of harassing her son, demanded they stop, and forced the detectives to leave the property before Jason could be fully questioned. And he was never questioned again after that. But that's pretty much all of my notes. And just like last episode, I do have a quick video to end on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a minute, and then yeah, I think we're good to wrap up there. So
awesome.
This is another video that William Ramsey put together like years and years ago. So there was a strange phone call that was made to the West Memphis police that sounds so much like Damien. It's creepy. It's very creepy, but it was never confirmed to be him. But this person called up and said something along the lines of, "I'm the one that killed the 3 boys. What are you going to do?" And then hung up the phone, right? Totally something he would do. But let's pull this up real quick and let's just let everyone decide for themselves what they think. So for all the audio people, it says, after the murders, did Damien Echols of the West Memphis 3 call and taunt the West Memphis Police Department? May 12th, West Memphis police receive an anonymous phone call.
Police Department. I don't want to. TF3T. It's what's on to. Hey, West Memphis. Police Department. I don't want to. TF3T. It's what's on to.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It sounds like him. Like I said, it's not a guarantee that it's him, but
and maybe I'm retarded, but it was they just played the same thing again twice there,
Yeah,
right? We didn't have a comparison there, so I haven't heard his voice enough, so I wouldn't really be able to say one way or the other
Right.
whether it was him. So
well, we can compare that because now we're getting into some of the stuff after. And yeah, I can pull that up again next episode and kind of compare. I've got a bunch of other short clips, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today.
Hell yeah, Jacob, where can people find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is over at my master link, which is allmylinks.com/rise to liberty. You can find me at Beware the Mockingbird on Substack. I've also recently created a Beware the Mockingbird YouTube page, so there'll be dual YouTube pages. Of course, Rise to Liberty on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, all the places. Find me on X at Rise to Liberty, Instagram, Telegram, and also pushing the 1s and 2s on Already Dead every Tuesday.
Hell yeah. We'll be back with another one of these, I believe probably the last Occult episode, but we'll definitely have more episodes to go for this series after that. At least one more Q&A, if anything, but probably some more too. Definitely been getting some more questions. So a little casual reminder, I guess, there. If you've been enjoying these, feel free to chip in the comment section, preferably on YouTube. And we will every so often jump into do a Q&A episode and see what you guys are saying. But with that, for those who want to support what I'm doing, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at Tower Gang Jose. Everywhere else, it's the No Way Jose podcast. Just search for No Way Jose. And if you want to support the show in the best way you can do it with money over at patreon.com. There's No Way Jose 2020. Top left-hand corner, you got a QR code, brings you the same exact place. And over there, the low level of $2, you can support the show and get a whole host of perks for it. Do about 1 to 2 episodes per week behind the paywall. Keep about 3 to 4 behind the paywall at any given time. Also give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed, the Telegram, the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which goes out on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Also give a big shout out to Highest Love, my Patreon. As a big thank you for their support. My previous Ghost and Tower Gang, Antler Toad, also at Fabricated, at Zayoversik, at _ Zeal, Tim Tell, at John Klebold, big fan of the show, Tormate, at Wayne Taggart, Monica Freakets, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Fitzbuel, Jacob Wintergrad, the Biblical Anarchy Podcast, and John Black, you beautiful bastard. And with that, guys, we will see you in the next one. We'll definitely be doing it soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.